What's good, world? It's your boy SoundOff The General, man. I'm back at it with another story time, man, talking about the calm before the storm, man. When you see this, it just yesterday it stormed, so I just felt like it was ironic for me to go ahead and talk about the calm before the storm. Calm Before the Storm is 9 tracks with my musical friends or people that I have done music with. It's 9 tracks, about 30-something minutes long, man. If you haven't heard The Calm Before the Storm, you should check it out when you got some time. Go to Apple Music, YouTube, whatever streaming platform that you listen to music on. You should be able to find The Calm Before the Storm by SoundOff The General. But the first song on The Calm Before the Storm is Limit Breaker, and it was produced by Double D Beats, a producer from here in Arkansas, the same artist and musician, producer that I did the process with. And so speaking of the process, when I recorded the process and created the process, it originally wasn't supposed to be a project. It was supposed to be a group project between me and him, but it ended up becoming my project. And so people knew me from my days when I was a part of the Mad Art Clique, and it was in that time people know me for my lyricism. They got to knew me for being a rapper, you know what I'm saying? But when I got on the process, between manic episodes, between depression, between being out of the rap game for several years, you know what I'm saying? Like people could say excuses, but there were several factors in why the process sounded the way it sounded. And so, it's still a good project. I still listen to it to this day. It's not one of my favorite projects that I've created, you know what I mean, because I've grown since then. And I felt like, as an artist, every artist should feel like their newest work was their best project, you know what I'm saying, as far as what they've learned and how they've grown and things of that nature. But when it came to the process, there was a lot of people that had some negative reviews about it. One person told me they just felt like it was beats and hooks, and that's all they heard. Some people were down at me. They felt like it was just a free flow album, which in part it was. And some songs it was a free flow. We were freestyling the tracks, but people didn't hear the lyricism from me that they wanted to hear per se. And so when that happened, there was a lot of negative talk surrounding the process. So when it came to my second project, I wanted to outdo the process, and I wanted to have a project that I could really feel good about and stand behind. And so it was May 2023. I was in the process of a depression, and I was trying to make in my mind what I was going to do as far as the next project. I wanted to release something every year. And so I hadn't released the project during that time. Now, I had the artwork for The Calm Before the Storm, which was, I had the artwork for some years, you know what I'm saying? I was going to release a compilation project with, it was going to have one of Pat B. The Truth songs, another person, a brother, you know what I'm saying, it was going to have one of his songs on there, and then it was going to have, a few of my songs, lead up to anticipation of the project I wanted to release, which was Contradiction. And so, didn't know what I was going to do, but I decided I'm going to use that artwork, and I'm going to name the project The Calm Before the Storm. And so, the original meaning behind The Calm Before the Storm was like to let the world, the industry know that, hey, you know what I'm saying, I got something fire coming out the way, and, get ready for the success, the storm, the backlash, the ripple, you know what I'm saying, of what this next project is going to be. This is kind of like, this is like a little water before, the rain that's coming. And so that didn't happen. And so when it came to May, I was like, you know what? I'm going to release this. And so a friend of mine, he had released his project, Pat Be the Truth. He had released Multiverse, and it was a 9-track project of all different songs that 9 different songs that were different in styles. And so when he did it, I was like, okay, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's cool. Wasn't something that I thought I would do, because I was like, I don't know if I want to release, my best project songs and release them all on one project. I didn't know if I wanted to do that. And so, long story short, I was going through depression, and I decided that's what I'm going to do. So several of the songs that I had on the project, I've had for a while because I was sitting on them. Limit Breaker, Real King Flex, Refuse to Lose, Believe, Alluring, Eternity, Hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had been sitting on them for a while, but I didn't know what I was going to do with those songs. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and put out my best work. So comes the selection of the songs. So I was like, which songs have I done? So what I would do when I was, waiting to come out and drop music before I started, I would let people hear the music I have and see what their reviews were. And so Eternity was in the high-ranking song. Hell was a high-ranking song. Limit Breaker was a high-ranking song. Real King Flex was a high-ranking song. Alluring was a high-ranking song. So I'm just going to talk about this a little bit now. You know what I mean? So Limit Breaker was the first record I had. I got that beat from Double D about 2019, I guess. And I had him, sample the Dragon Ball Super Ultra Instinct. I was real inspired and been inspired by, Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball Z, inspired by that. The idea of mastering yourself, and that just really, just lit a fire under me. And I was like, you know what, I want to do a song. And so, Goku's in Japanese, it's Ultra Instinct Omen. That is like not the self-mastery version, but it's like a piece of self-mastery. And so the English version is Limit Breaker. And so when I started with the process of that song, I originally was going to be on some Bible thumping type stuff, going at a particular denomination, stuff like that. And at the time I was manic when I had this idea. And, for those that don't know what mania is, you might want to watch my bipolar video, Living with Bipolar. It's a previous video. But I was having delusions and things like that, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. But when I came out of Mania, what I wrote, I didn't like. So I was like, man, let me rewrite. And so, come the song Son of an OG, yeah, that ninja. Now the son's an OG, yeah, that ninja. You'd think I'm Super Saiyan, wear the chain flicker, cruising in the scat pack, switching lanes, ninja. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting, when I started writing the lyrics for that song, I originally had like a homage to Houston, kind of like, I'm cruising in the scat pack like a sick critter. You know what I'm saying? That was what I was going to say. But, my boy at the time, Pat B, was like, nah, man, that doesn't sound good. That sounds bad. You don't want your car to have the imagery of a sick critter. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a good line. And he was kind of like, what you should do, switch your lanes, just because, you already got a song called Switch Your Lanes. Reinforce it. It sounds cooler. So I got on board with that. Pat ended up, kind of ghostwriting a couple bars from me in the second verse and in the third verse. When I get to the part where I say, I just calm my mind and tap into the guy within me versus me is the obstacle that it's always been. You know what I'm saying? Like, he helped me with that. You know what I mean? And I feel like, that, and then at the end when I said, I'm just having a brain fart all of a sudden. Trust me, y'all, I remember my lyrics. But anyways, at the end where I was, basically saying I was like Goku, and I was like, sorry, I'm slipping my mind all of a sudden. But at the end of the verse, I kind of, basically talk about, how, like, it's like, yeah, I'm somewhat amazing, you know what I'm saying, because of all the things I've been through. And in that, doing that part, Pat helped write that as well. And so he just gave me some bars. And here's the thing. I felt like, in the hip-hop community, we frown against artists getting bars from other people and things of that nature. But if you look at all the great musicians, for instance, every genre of music has multiple writers except for hip-hop. But even hip-hop have multiple writers. People talk about Drake, but at the end of the day, there are other artists that have gotten, bars from other people. Kanye, Dr. Dre, Bow Wow, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's been other people that have gotten bars. There's 50 Cent quoting that he's wrote some songs for LL. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see why it's frowned upon. You know what I'm saying? So I just felt like at the end of the day, he helped me with it, and I was cool with that. You know what I'm saying? Because it produced the result of the song the way that I wanted it. So I'm grateful for that. Track 2 is Real King Flex. That's a song that when I originally was going to do it, I was going to do it with another partner of mine. He kind of helped lay the groundwork of the hook because I was going to do it something different. But he was kind of like, nah, it should be like Flex. This is how Real King Flex. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, I like that idea. So I, got to writing it, and I was going through a divorce at the time. You know what I'm saying? We were separating, and I was staying in extended stay, and I speak on that a little bit on my mixtape Groundbreaking. But I had some of these songs, and I was just working on them because I was like, I wanted to make something of myself. One of the last messages my ex-wife told me was like, I just wanted you to trace your dream. I wanted you to, follow your heart, follow your joy, do your thing, and just stop talking about it and go do it. And so in the process, Real King Flex came out and came about. And so with Real King Flex, I wanted to make a song that was more modern and the way that I rap, but then not only that, I wanted it to be, talking about getting business done. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, I start my first every day. I gotta get it, taking my stuff another bit. Then the next step, logistics, applying that pressure, physics. One more step is tremendous. Brick by brick, how we finish. Every win takes a village. It's survival of the fittest. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I do that. I end up getting Double D on there because I felt like, he would be a great addition to the song. Not only that, I didn't have anybody else in mind, and I didn't want to write a second verse. So that's the one thing I'm going to say. A lot of times when you hear features from me, other people on my stuff, it's probably because I didn't want to write another verse or didn't feel like doing it. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how that came along. Then he added his verse. I paid him for it. He got on it. I, gave him a couple ideas of some things he could say in his verse, that kind of thing. And he wrote his part and he did his thing. The next song that I did on The Calm Before the Storm was Alluring. With Alluring, it's just about a cool, jazzy chick. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that's down to earth but spiritual. Somebody that's just something about her aura that's just special. In that, I wanted to write that, and I met a chick, and I was like, you know what? Like, you know what I'm saying? You kind of, something about you is alluring, you know what I mean? And what was so funny about it was I had heard of the word alluring years prior, you know what I'm saying? Because I was watching something and the guy was just talking about be different with your woman, you know what I'm saying? Tell her, you know what I'm saying? Instead of beautiful, she's alluring. And I looked up the word and got what it meant and was like, okay, bet. And so with alluring, I heard the beat and it was just kind of jazzy, and I was like, yeah, you know what? That's what I'm gonna do, and that's what I kind of created it. You know what I'm saying? Just off of that premise. The fourth song is Belief on the project, and with Belief, what went into that was I had got the beat several years prior. In that process, I got the hook, and that's the thing with me and my process. A lot of times when I come up with records, you know what I'm saying, the hook is the first thing for me. You know what I'm saying? Before I even write anything else, I gotta know where the chorus is going and what I'm saying. That way I can kind of have a clear understanding of what I'm saying in my verse. It's just kind of like one of my sticklers. And so I got, I can do anything through the power of my mind. No matter the ups and downs, will be just fine. Yeah, so I got, the hook going. And it was a while after, and then I finally got the verse down and started writing that and got it completed. And it was interesting because, when Pat heard it, he was like, man, it sounded like you just like that beat just, like it was made just for that beat. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, like your verse was cold. You know what I'm saying? And what was cool about Belief was that, I grew up, in a predominantly Christian household, and, my belief sometimes is that, it could be negative programming with some of the affirmations that are said. And so I had a low self-esteem, low sense of worth, pessimistic a lot of times. And so for me to write Belief, I knew what Belief was true, but I didn't know like I know it now, you know what I'm saying? But it was good that I was able to write something like that, even though that's not something typically I would write. So that's the fourth song. The fifth song is I Know, which is Belief was featuring Belief was featuring Pat Be The Truth and County the Line. With that, I requested, it was so funny, man, when Pat wrote his verse, he was like, man, if you want me to rewrite it, and I'm like, man, bro, you technically, quote unquote, the better rapper than me, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, shit, your verse is your verse, you know what I mean? Like, shoot, I want you to do your thing, and you the reason I called you was for you to do you. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing with County Line. And then, at first with County, I didn't really like his verse at the time. You know what I'm saying? At first. But then when I listened to it and listened to it a couple times, like he did exactly what he needed to do for that song. You know what I'm saying? It was like, man, that was so cool. You know what I'm saying? Like that was amazing situation. The fifth song, once again, was I Know with Beezy the Sinister. He produced the beat. I bought it from him, and then we was like, man, we wanted to work together. I don't think we had worked together at the time, or we did do a song before, and then it was kind of like, shoot, let me, I want to create a song that's mine and get you on it. And so he produced the beat, and I had wrote a hook, a chorus for Pat Be The Truth song on Multiverse, was called Big Drip. And so I know, and I'm like, man, she want the finer, in the designer, dripping the tire, wanna let flyer. I know. Like, so the song, the premise of it was just like, a female sees you and sees what you have accomplished, what you've accumulated, what you've done for yourself, and then she wants to be, like all over you, like possessive and things like that. And I had a chick like that one time. Like, she saw what I had going on, you know what I'm saying, what I was doing fresh out of divorce, and was like, oh yeah, I'm trying to make you. And I'm like, shit, nah, you know what I'm saying? Like, at first it was cool, but nah, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, long story short, I was just kind of like writing a song to that Beezy wrote his verse, did his thing. We recorded the track at his studio. Initially, he mixed the record, but I didn't like it at the time because he didn't have auto-tune at the time. And so I wanted, I've heard how my voice sounds with auto-tune on it, with some tune on it, even if it's just a little bit. Like, I've heard how that sounds, and so I like that sound. And I was like, okay, that's what I want. So I had to send it to a dude named Glass Studios, who I got off of Fiverr. And he mixed it and it sounded great. And I was like, man, that's what's up. It's ironically funny thing is Beezy did like the tune he put on his voice. He was kind of a little irritated by that. But, Beezy, hopefully you forget me, bro. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, the next record is Gimme, track 6. And so I wrote that with another artist here locally, another independent artist named Nick Lamb, and he's a very dope, talented artist, as well as all the artists that are on my project. All of them are talented in their own way, but Nick is like a melodic. He can do your regular rapidy rap stuff, but he really sounds good in his melodic type stuff. And so, he pulled me out of my wheelhouse a little bit with Gimme, because it was kind of like, he was talking about getting money and wanting to get money and be on top and stuff like that. And I usually, at the time, like to write more personal records than, what I aspire to be or what I want, which is nothing wrong with that. I'm going to start speaking more things into existence through music. But, with Gimme, I'm rapping in there, Mike Apacucci fit. That's so like a bougie bitch, you know what I'm saying? Like it's so funny, man. But it was hard though, you know what I'm saying? My verse was hard. Track 7 is Hell, and Hell is a real personal song because it was like, I was talking about in that song, how going through a manic episode, going through the downside of it, going through a depression, going through the situation that I found myself in, being divorced, people cutting me off, people not wanting to be in my life anymore, being suicidal, being depressed, being hurt. And at the result I was to blame because of my episode not taking my medicine. So it's like, with Hell, it's more of a newer modern style sounding song, but it was to mention the pain that I experienced, after the episode. And so that was another song that I got high reviews over. And one of my cousin's favorite songs on the project, because I was just raw, uncut, honest about where I was at. So it was a real dope record. Number 8 was Eternity, and Eternity is, and I'm going to tell this about my Songs About K video as well. Eternity was a project, a song that I did after the divorce, going through the divorce, and I had likened the separation of being away from my ex-spouse, to hell. You know what I'm saying? To being separated, because it felt like me and her, even though it was fresh and it happened, it felt like, us being together happened lifetimes ago. That's how it felt. And so I was, coming out of a Christian background. And so with that, coming out of a Christian background, you have the idea and the concept of heaven and hell. And, I just like, felt like eternity. And so even when you hear my verse, on the second verse, I'm like, feels like I'm burning. Can someone stop this hell, please? You know what I'm saying? Like, basically, I'm just, pretty much just talking about how, what I mean, that's how the separation felt to me. So, and then the last song is featuring Nova Johnson, Duke Stegall, rappers that been rapping for a while as well. All the rappers I mentioned been rapping for a while. Duke is a legend locally from his time with, with his time with the Lab Rats and, Top Shelf Entertainment. So he's a local legend. Been doing it for a while, well respected. Nova Johnson, a battle rapper, as well as Pat B's a battle rapper. Can put those bars together, and so it was just interesting. Like, it was funny because Refuse to Lose was one of those songs that I didn't hear a lot about because I just, I felt like it was a reflective song, you know what I mean, as far as like what I've been through. Shit been fucked up, coming from a broken home. Pops left me something like a Rolling Stone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm, laying it out there like, man, this is my upbringing. This is how I grew up. And I wrote it universally, but I also wrote it in a way that people could see themselves in it too. You know what I'm saying? And so, I got Nova on first. Paid him to do his verse. He came back, did his thing. Duke did his verse, did his thing. He ended up mixing his verse. And I got, Glass Studios to mix the rest of it. And, both of them dropped their jewels about refusing to lose. And that was the end of it. I would like to know in the comments, if you've heard The Calm Before the Storm, what is your favorite record? Or what is the song that you like the most? If you haven't heard Calm Before the Storm, what you waiting on? Yeah, man. But anyways, I'm proud of this work because it varies in styles. You know what I'm saying? The beats vary. Different producers. I know Eternity and Hell was produced by S66. Refuse to Lose, I'm trying to think who produced that. Is drawing a blank. I know Gimme, I got that off of a site called Gju. I know it was Beezy. Limit Breaker was Double D. Alluring with S66. Belief, I can't remember who produced that. Alluring with S66. Real King Flex, can't remember who produced that. But it was a nice, cool project, man. If you get some time, like I said, check it out. Yeah, but it's been cool talking to y'all, telling y'all about the Calm Before the Storm. Definitely like the growth and the improvement, the development that I did on that project, and look forward to talking about songs about K next. All right, y'all. Peace.